This is If My People Bible Reading, part 165. We are in the book of Esther, and it falls exactly where it should be when it was produced and written, according to all the other Bible readings we've had so far. I wanted to bring your attention American Dictionary of English Language by Noah Webster. This is going to come up. A few very important things are happening in the book of Esther that need to be brought up. So this is the time of chapter 1, verse 1, Xerxes. And Xerxes ruled over the 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. That's a pretty big area. He was also called Ahasuerus, or other Bibles may call him Ahasuerus. That's similar to being called Cyrus, and because it's a title position, and it's also a name such as High King, just to kind of give you an idea. So, in this book is different than the other books, and it does not directly mention Yahweh and Yeshua in it. It does not mention prayer. In our understanding, the two you see they go together, but the importance of this book for you today is relevant to the word providence. We are living in a world that, for the most part, does not mention Yahweh anymore. Yeshua is just a word, Jesus, that you use when you stub your toe. A remnant of his people exist in an era, thousands of other gods, thousands of saviors, thousands of messiahs, and prayers that seem and appear to go unanswered. Your ways are not his ways, and so he remains hidden. Just like the book of Esther, and providence moves from the pages of Esther and through our daily lives. We are in the age of famine of the word. We're there, and it's getting worse. The churches are full of business activities, entertaining, and synagogues are full of rituals and false doctrines and traditions of men. Yes, this book is also relevant and has purpose where the great majority of Christians have spent little time with the word. So we're going to dig into Esther, and hopefully you've pre-read. And let's go to chapter 1, verse 21. The king and his nobles were pleased with this advice, so the king did as Memucan proposed. Well, what was it pleased about? Well, as you've read, Queen Vashti decided to, she had her morals and values, and she was going to hold to them, and she was not going to be propped up as some kind of use by men for pleasure for all of them, and not going to be shown off in that matter. She was trying to be a woman who came from the side of Adam, not from above and not from below. Here, in this particular, the book of Esther is about being below. Well, many of the things that you read about in the book of Esther, one of them is never mentioned, and we're going to mention it here. Therefore, if it pleases the king, this is verse 19, let him issue a royal decree that it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. We've heard about that in many Sunday school classes. Also, let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than she. That we've read about in all the, I remember all the, over and over again, you read the same thing. When you read Old Testament, they make little stories out of it. They don't bring up and show where Yeshua and Yahweh is. But the next one here. Then when the king's edict is proclaimed throughout all his vast realm, all the women in the entire kingdom will respect their husbands from the least to the greatest, according to the way this Memucan wanted it done. Kind of, there's a blow to women's rights right there. So we comment, the Bible critics have inserted in their comment sections throughout all kinds of Bibles I've read that the book of Esther should not be in the canon of Scripture because Yahweh and our prayer is not mentioned. This book does reveal several key aspects that tie into the book into the entire Bible. One of them is the word being in young people's minds, not just in your families, but in schools. And it wasn't the Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education in the early 1960s that tore apart the Bible and the Bible being read in school anymore. Actually, it was in the 1840s when all kinds of wacky Christian organizations started and all kinds of wacky commentaries. That's where the rapture theory comes from. The 1830s and 40s when it started getting popular. And so we're going to mention that going back to the one who fought, and he fought hard to try to correct that. We'll bring that up. Now, just as something interesting here, Mordecai, now this is chapter 2, verse 7. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither a father nor a mother. This girl was also known as Esther. Esther was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and her mother had died. So Hadassah, myrtle tree, and she became Ishtar, or Esther, meaning star. Trees and stars. How's that kind of go together with Christmas? Okay. Even before we finish chapter 2 in verse 23, and when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were hanged on the gallows. This was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. So when the plot was found out about and told to Queen Esther, who in turn reported to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. Since way back then, the word Jew either means that you support them or that you want to kill them. And there have been so many pogroms. Pogroms are offenses against the people who are of the Jewish faith. And there have been holocausts. There have been many of them, not just the one in World War II with the Nazis. There is many Jews that were slaughtered because of their faith in Russia, than in Germany when you add up through the years. And the ones that remained became non-believers, atheistic, for the same reason that their cohorts, those in Sephardics in Spain in 1492 during the big pogrom there. There was a huge pogrom by the governments of the world at that time to eliminate the Jews from Europe, and then the ones in Spain either became Catholic, in which many are today. They are actually their great grandparents were Jewish, and you can now test that through your blood and so forth. But it's just, you see where I'm going for this. This is stuff been going on. So what happens in the book of Esther is still going on today, folks. Nothing has changed. Even when you go up to chapter 6, the chosen people are still targets. And the target is now on Jewish people. What's about to happen in the last days is those who hear and obey, call themselves the people of Israel, all 12 tribes, are going to start getting together. These two differences of opinion are going to get together as one tree. And so if you want problems in this world, just declare that you are of the Father and the Son, and say their names. And say their names. It's a mocking come from the left-wing fascists. Say their names. That's a pagan symbol. When you hear that and someone's making you say their names, it's a satanic ritual. But we say the name of Yahweh because he is our Father, and we say salvation. We say YHVH because he is salvation. So yes, it's okay. Hasatan is great at copying things and then mocking it. Let's go to chapter 8. It gets better. Now, the same day that King Xerxes and Queen Esther, the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, and Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had told how he was related to her. Now, let's jump to verse 3. Esther again pleaded with the king, falling at his feet and weeping. She begged him to put an end to the evil plan of Haman the Agagite, at which he had devised against the Jews. Now, remember that there was an oath made, and they made it a law of an oath that once an oath is given, once a law is decreed, you can't take it back. This is what happens when you live in a nation where you come up with something that is so stupid that you can't get it reversed. Federal law is very hard to get it taken out. Once it becomes a law, it takes the Supreme Court, and it takes a massive act through the Supreme Court, if they're all honest about it, to get things reversed. But the Supreme Court is not honest anymore either. It's just teetering on collapsing. So it's great to live in a nation that's a republic of laws, but if you don't obey the laws, and then the laws are becoming condemning because they're falsely put in by false people, and then righteous people cannot get them erased, then you have a nation of lawlessness, and there is no Yahweh anymore because 1960 says you can't even mention him into school. Now, you can mention all the other fake religions, all 300, 400,000 of them. I'm counting the nation of India because they have 300 or 400,000 gods, and that's okay. You just can't mention the Christianity aspect of it. So, having said that, now we're in chapter 9, and let's start at verse 25. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. So now the king's saying, well, this is going to happen anyway, but I give you a certain amount of time to get this corrected, and you can do your own thing. We'll just see how it goes by lot. Just let the lot fall. And verse 26, therefore these days were called Purim, meaning lot, because of everything written in this letter and because of what they had seen and what happened to them. Verse 27, pay attention to this. The Jews took it upon themselves. In other words, there's no Yahweh involved. Just like I said, they're right. In the book of Esther, Yahweh is not mentioned. So is Yahweh have anything to do with verse 27? No. This time called Purim? No. To establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who joined them should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the way described and at the time appointed. The key word is Jews took it upon themselves. So just a thinking before I start mentioning things further. Does that mean that it's an official Yahweh holiday to be followed year after year for the next couple thousand years? Uh-oh. Well, the answer is no to that. As it turns out, there were some battles had to take. People had to stand up for their rights. It may happen like that today. It may happen in these last days. You have to, as YHVH says, in the last days, pick up your sword. Pick up your sword. Turn your plowshares into swords. Okay. Here's where I'm going with this. Without YHVH, without Yahweh and things, we now have holidays. And some of them are by people who call themselves holy. For instance, Orthodox rabbi have Passover every year without YHVH. The Catholic Church, they've created their own. They have Easter, and it mostly is without Yahweh and it's about Easter bunnies and eggs. Then they have Shavuot, 50 days later. The Christians have Pentecost, all without YHVH. The fall festivals are the Orthodox rabbi. And we have Thanksgiving without YHVH. Hanukkah, the Orthodox rabbi, Christians, Christmas time, Santa Claus. And they have, again, as we mentioned, Purim. And Christians have invented the word Lent.